There are plenty of players out there who might not get the recognition they deserve, so today I'm bringing to you my underrated 11 from this season.
Rhythm.
First off, and there's been a lot of money spent on goalkeepers in the last few seasons, from Alessandro to Ederson to Edouard Mendy, but Emi Martinez at Aston Villa has been a sensational signing. Yes, he had a very good end to the season with Arsenal, and you can kind of see why maybe he could be worth keeping around at the Emirates, but it wasn't necessarily clear that he was going to be a number one goalkeeper. However, Aston Villa saw that he would be. They paid the money to bring him into the club, and now 14 clean sheets later, at the time of recording, he has been one of, if not the signing of the season. Doesn't get spoken about too much because, well, the nature of anything outside the top six seems to fly over absolutely everybody's heads these days. But Emi Martinez has been brilliant. He's been brilliant in goal and has seen Aston Villa go from a relegation-threatened team last season to this season with his influence potentially challenging for a Europa League spot. With the goalkeeper out the way, we're moving into the main bit of the team, and of course, a formation needs to be set. I'm going for a 3-4-3 because why the hell not? And first off, of our three centre-backs, there's a player who's probably remembered for his time in England and with Liverpool for a ridiculous bicycle kick that he scored against QPR. And of course, I'm talking about Sebastian Cuartes. Now 30 years old and with Sporting Lisbon in Portugal, he has been putting in some astonishing performances this season. This is a Sporting side that are close to their first ever title in almost 20 years, who haven't lost a game this season and have the best defensive record in the league, no doubt down to the experience and the brilliant defending of Cuartes. Like I mentioned, they've only conceded 12 goals in 25 games this season, and on top of all of this, in the other end, he's managed to chip in with 4 goals. It's been a brilliant season from him and definitely underrated. Moving on though, and I'm struggling to nail down what underrated actually means. You know what, we're just going for players who don't receive enough attention and love, even though they've been brilliant this season. And another one of those at centre-back is Andrea Bastogne. Now, when everyone talks about Inter Milan, you talk about Antonio Conte. Then you talk about the big names like Lukaku and Martinez doing the business at the front end of the pitch and scoring the goals that seeing them on their way to a Serie A title. But in defence, Bastoni has been an absolute stalwart for them. In fact, he's played more minutes and made more starts than any other defensive player. When you think of Inter's defence, there's obviously the talk about Milan Skriniar because he may potentially be on his way out of the club and have a big transfer in him. Ranocchia has been brilliant, but is coming towards the end of his Inter career. But for Bastoni, at 21 years old, to have been putting in the performances that he's putting in and such good defensive performances, he definitely deserves a lot of praise. In fact, he's done so well that Inter Milan are lining up a brand new contract for the defender to ward off the interest from the likes of Manchester City. Next up, when you spend 36 million on a 19-year-old defender from Saint Etienne, there are going to be a few eyebrows raised, but those eyebrows are well and truly back in their normal place right now, and that is because Wesley Fofana at Leicester City has taken to the Premiership like a duck to water. He's been brilliant, so much so that the CIES Observatory, who look at loads of different categories as to how good players are, how much they're worth, their value in the future, this, that and the other, they've put him alongside the stars of tomorrow like Jadon Sancho as one of the most worth it defenders in world football. In fact, that 36 million is looking like a bit of a steal, and even if Leicester were to sell him tomorrow, they'd probably make that back and then some. Such has been the performances from the defender this season. Moving on then and into the midfield, and we're starting on the right-hand side where a player has been fantastic despite the fact he's missed quite a big chunk of this season through injury, and it's Jonas Hofmann at Gladbach. This is a Gladbach side that has done very well in the Champions League, making it to the last 16 of the competition before being knocked out. They've had some good runs in the Bundesliga, and Hofmann has been at the heart of everything good. He signed from Dortmund a few years ago, but this season has really made his mark, even breaking into the German national team. This season he's got 19 goals and assists in 28 games at the time of recording, and well, he's done so well there have been a few talks about him potentially leaving the club. Personally, I don't think that's going to happen, although he may decide to follow manager Marco Rose out of the club at the end of the season. As for players who get all the credit in the Bundesliga, there's obviously all the talk about Bayern Munich this, Dortmund that, but Hofmann definitely deserves to be up there with one of the best and most consistent this season, and like I mentioned, with such a big injury playing a part, he's done even better to come back from that and consistently put in all the good performances. Next up, I'm moving into the Lille midfield, as well, they've signed a player from Rennes in 2019, and since then, he hasn't exactly grabbed headlines, but Benjamin Andre has missed only 4 of their Ligue 1 games in the last 2 seasons. And when you couple that with the fact that Lille are putting together a serious title challenge to the ever-dominant PSG, you've got to think that he's probably doing something right. If they're being consistently good, and he's consistently in the team in central midfield in such an important position, he's obviously having a fantastic couple of years. In fact, the 30-year-old is now playing his best football, and it's just a shame that he's now reached 30. If he was doing this like 21, 22, you can guarantee there'd be loads of talk about him and he'd be one of the prospects of the future. So it's a little bit of a shame for his career, but at the moment, look, he's challenging at the top of Liga. He's putting in brilliant performances, and if Lille manage to hold on and win this title against a PSG side holding so many millions worth of talent, that is definitely a massive, massive thing for him. And it's probably better than a move to a place where you probably wouldn't play as much or get as much credit as you deserve. Alongside him in the centre of midfield is someone who's played more left midfield than central midfield, but definitely deserves to be in this team, and it's Octavio from Porto. In fact, the beginning of the season saw him running out of contract. It was due to expire in the summer, and with his brilliant performances for Porto, yes, they are doing so well in the league in Portugal, but they've made it to the last 8 of the Champions League, including knocking out Juventus. They've put in some brilliant performances, and he was one of the 10 most expensive players in the world with their contract running out. He was kind of a big deal, and deservedly so. His performances on the pitch in all areas, literally everywhere from midfield to attack, have not gone unnoticed, and Porto struggled to hold on to him, but finally they managed to get the deal done. They've signed a new contract with the midfielder, which will see him stay until at least 2025, and it's no more than he deserves. Had he gone, it would have been one of the worst transfer decisions for them to have made, and, well, it's not really down to them, but it would have been one of the best free transfers that anyone else in Europe would have picked up. Moving on to the left of midfield now, and when you think of Frankfurt in the last few seasons, there's always talk of strikers, whether it's Sebastian doing his thing and getting that big money move to West Ham, whether it's Luka Jovic bagging the goals, getting a move to Real Madrid, it not quite working out, and then coming back on loan, and now it's Andre Silva who keeps on finding the back of the net behind all of those great strikers. Assisting them more often than not has been Philippe Costage. In fact, in his 3 seasons at Frankfurt, he's got progressively better when it's coming to assists, and now with 14 assists, he's already achieved a personal best, and it looks like he could get way more than that as Frankfurt challenge for the Champions League places. In fact, at 28 years old, he's heading into his prime, and actually, if they do not make it into the Champions League places, you could probably see a few teams coming in for him. With bags of pace, the ability to chip in with a goal, and a ridiculous amount of assists, there's probably not a more informed left winger in Europe at the moment. Moving into the front 3 now, and again, we come to a player who unfortunately is going to be remembered in England for a rather ill-fated spell at Liverpool, and of course, that poorly taken corner, it's Iago Aspas. But if you look away from that and look to his astonishing career at Celta Vigo, you can see why he is so well respected not only in that part of the country, but in La Liga overall, yet still somehow underrated as a footballer. This coming from a striker who is constantly playing with, in the last few seasons certainly, a relegation-threatened Celta Vigo at the wrong end of the table. Yet despite this, he's managed to score goal after goal after goal to keep them in the division. And this season has now got double figures for goals and assists. That puts him alongside the likes of Harry Kane, Bruno Fernandes, Lionel Messi and Thomas Müller in the other players who have scored and assisted 10 or more goals this season. That isn't exactly bad company to keep, and if you don't start rating him, you should do now. We'll move in to the next attacker though, and it's Patrick Bamford, and honestly, the fact that he doesn't get into the England squad isn't actually anything to do with his ability, in my opinion anyway. It's just to do with the fact that he's got a fair few strikers ahead of him. Of course, he is competing for the one and only central striking spot in the England national team, and he's got to overtake Harry Kane, who not only is a fantastic forward but is also the England captain, so it's going to be kind of difficult. But behind that, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is the one whose emergence into the England setup may tick Bamford off just a little bit. He's got the same amount of goals as Calvert-Lewin, and he's provided more assists than the Everton striker has, and all whilst, let's be honest, failing at Premier League level in his last few stints. This season though, it's been different. He's come up with a brilliant attacking lead side, and without his 20 goal contributions to the team, there is no way they'd be sitting comfortably in mid-table, way away from a relegation fight, and maybe a few wins off thinking about challenging for the Europa League. Bamford has been brilliant and definitely deserves all the credit that he may fleetingly get in the media. Moving on then, and to the last one, and I guarantee this is for someone you may not have heard of because he's playing at the lower reaches of the Dutch division. Despite this though, he's the Eredivisie top goal scorer by quite a mile. With 24 goals, it's Georgios Giacomaccus. What makes this incredible is that he moved to VVV Venlo at the beginning of the season, and the 24 goals he scored this season is more than all the rest of his career combined. I think that is about 21 goals. He's got 24 this season, playing for 16th place Venlo, who are definitely threatened with relegation, certainly with a relegation playoff, have a horrific defence and haven't scored too many goals. And he still managed to bag 24. Loads of people will say, oh yeah, but it's only the Eredivisie and it's quite an easy division to play in for the top teams. Yeah, maybe for the top teams and the top strikers when you're playing against the so-called cannon fodder and the weaker teams, but Giacomaccus is in one of the weaker teams. He's playing against the better teams every other week or so, and he still managed to bag a ridiculous amount of goals. I'd be absolutely amazed if the 26-year-old Greek forward is still there come next season, but massive credit is due to him this season for sure. So there you have it, my underrated and maybe a little bit underappreciated 11 for this season. You guys let me know your thoughts down below. Check out everything else we got going on, and until next time, I will see you guys later. Rhythm.